So they say there are only two guarantees in life. One of them is death, and the other one is taxes. And taxes, there's a lot of CPAs out there. There's a lot of financial professionals that will help you plan for your taxes. But who's helping you plan for the other guarantee of life? Planning for our death does not sound very exciting. In fact, it sounds like the opposite of exciting. However, it's critical. It's so important for us to be able to do this because there can be a lot of problems if we don't plan properly. There's a lot of families that get destroyed because they don't set up their financial or estate plan properly, or their plan for when they pass away. Make sure that you watch to the end of this video so that you're putting together an estate plan, or a legacy plan, as I like to call it, that will make sure that your family stays together and takes what could be a tragedy or what could be a very horrible experience and make it as good as possible in light of the circumstances. Let's get started. My name is Paris Clough, and this is Financial Self-Reliance. On this channel, I love helping people manage, protect, and grow their money. And on this video, we're going to talk about protecting your wealth as it gets transferred from you to the next generation of your family members. So leaving a legacy is critical. I have a PowerPoint presentation that I usually use with this particular discussion, and so I'm going to kind of refer to that as I go along here today. So this video is going to be very important for you to think about, because one of the things most people don't do is, as actually Stephen Covey says in his book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, one of the steps that he talks about there is beginning with the end in mind. And so if you definitely want to have a situation where you can accumulate a large amount of money and have a significant amount of wealth, and then have that money transfer to the next generation without a lot of problems, you're going to definitely want to have an estate plan and a legacy plan put together so that you can have the things that you need in place long before you need them. The last thing you need is to be passing away and then start your legacy plan or your estate plan. You want to have this set up and ready to go long before you're ever in that situation. So let's get started with leaving a legacy, or estate planning, as I like to call it. All right, so the first thing you want to do is, when you set up an estate plan, you want to get a set of professionals together that you can really work with and that can help you in a mastermind kind of a group. And no one particular professional has an expertise in every area of a financial or estate plan or legacy plan that you want to be able to have. So let's take a look at this here. You have a will. A will can be drafted in many states. It could just be drafted a piece of paper that you put down some of the things that you want to have happen. For example, when I pass away, I want to have the painting in the living room go to my son or my daughter, or when I pass away, I want to have this particular brokerage account or that brokerage account or the car or the house or whatever. Write those things down. Now that's important to do, because then people will know what you're going to want after you've passed away. They're going to already know what you want. But the problem with that is that even with a will, you can still enter what's called probate, and probate can be very expensive and very time consuming. And that's where a lot of people get into these arguments. So what's really important is to build something called a living trust. A living trust will help you avoid quite a bit of the problems in fact, it totally avoids the probate problem at all. And a living trust is done with an attorney. So you need to have a lawyer that's going to help you with that. Now, living trusts can have life insurance in them. So you're going to need to work with a life insurance agent. You're going to have an organization organize your records. Organizing your records and all of the assets that you have, your financials, that can be done by a CPA. Beneficiary directives are easy, because that's something that you would put together with the lawyer and the insurance agent as they do the applications and as they make sure the paperwork is in place so that the beneficiaries of each of your things are there. Medical directives and power of attorney, critical things that you want to have already in place and ready to go. So with your will, it is a binding legal document. However, you still doesn't avoid probate like a trust would. So you want to be able to know what all your possessions are, your bank accounts, your real property, your investments, name an executor to your estate. That's going to be something that you really actually do with your lawyer as you establish a trust. Now, here's one of the things that we'll talk about as well in this particular situation. Limits or reduces arguments about estate distribution. One of the big problems that I've seen and heard, and I have some friends that are lawyers and estate planners, and they just tell me horror stories about how different people didn't plan properly and their families have these huge, long, drawn-out arguments. And I'm sure that as you leave your legacy or as you leave something behind, as you move on to the next phase of whatever existences that you believe in, I think it's important. For me, it's important anyways, that I don't want to leave strife. I don't want to leave contention. I don't want to leave a situation where basically it's worse than what I could have done if I had just paid attention and got what I needed to get done. So there's families that argue and fight and just have horrible arguments for years, and sometimes they don't ever talk to each other again because they didn't have a proper estate distribution here. So durable power of attorney. This is very important. The reason why it's so important is because when you get to the age where you may not be able to have the cognitive awareness that you had before, maybe you're not dementia or some Alzheimer's is coming on, you want to be able to have your durable power of attorneys in place long before that happens so that somebody can take over for your decisions and help you decide what to do, or help the doctors decide what to do for you, someone that you trust. You want to make sure that you're keeping track of this too. So if you trust somebody when you're 50 and then somehow there's a little family argument and that person is not the right person, you want to make sure you update your durable power of attorney to somebody that you trust on a regular basis. So this is not something that you want to look at every month or every day, but you definitely want to update your power of attorney at least regularly, maybe every year or every couple of years. You want to make sure that you have, you realize that there's different kinds of power of attorney. One is for medical issues and the other is for financial issues. They can be the same person, but there's different powers of attorneys that you want to have in a place before you need it, by the way. Medical directives, this is something along the lines of if you have an accident or you get into a coma and there's literally, the doctors are saying there's really not much we can do to bring them back. You're in a vegetative state, maybe you're in a coma that's going to be long term. If you want to have what's called a do not resuscitate or a DNR, this is a medical directive. This is something that you would want to have laid out ahead of time so that before that happens, your family knows what to do with that doctor to make the right decision for you, the decision that you want to have happen. And I've seen too many times where people don't have the right plans and there's a big argument with the doctors, like what did she want? One brother says this, one sister says that, one, a friend says this, somebody else says that, a sibling says this. And if you just write it down, this is, if I ever get into a situation where I'm in a vegetative state, please keep me on life support, or please just pull the plug and let me go into the next world without any issues. So make sure you write down your desires so that there's no questions as to what those are. So we talked about beneficiary directives a little bit, but this is important because there's a lot of people that will go on. I actually get advertisements all the time, and probably you do too, from this whatever state you live in is going to have what's called lost and found money. The reason why this money is lost and found is because a bank account was never claimed. Maybe somebody passed away and a brokerage account, a bank account, a savings account, something, there's money sitting there that nobody's claimed, nobody knows even exists. And then it literally goes to the state and the state just holds on to it until somebody claims it. And so there's lots of websites where you can go to. You can go to unclaimed money and then type in your state and see if you have maybe a relative that has left some money somewhere in a bank account somehow that never got claimed, and you might be able to have access to it. In fact, interestingly enough, my wife and I did this a couple years ago. I put my name in, I put her name in. It wasn't a lot of money, but we got like, I don't know, $25 because it was some account somewhere that somebody that we didn't know about. It got lost in the shuffle, and ended up that we had some money sitting there and they sent us a check. So I wish it was more than a few dollars, but it was definitely something that was cool for me to be able to realize, hey, wait a minute, there's might be some money out there for more than just me. So make sure that you have your beneficiaries designated and that they know they're beneficiaries. Whenever I do a life insurance policy for somebody, I make sure that they say, hey, who do you want to have be the beneficiary of this life insurance policy? Who do you want to have be the beneficiary of whatever this account is? And then let them know. In fact, we often call right on the phone as we're filling out the paperwork, as I'm putting their name down on the paperwork. I say, call them right now and let them know that you're putting them as a beneficiary for that information, and then let me know who they are so I can contact them too in case I hear anything, and then I'll know who they are and keep track of that in my paperwork as a life insurance agent. So it's important for you though, as a family, as an individual, to write down, okay, my insurance policy with this company, my son's the beneficiary, my daughter's the beneficiary, my son and my daughter are the beneficiary. Maybe you have several sons and several daughters. You might put them all there. Maybe it's your spouse, maybe it's your significant other, maybe whoever it is. Make sure that you know who it is, that other people know who it is, that the person who's the beneficiary knows who it is. So that way if anything were to happen to you, they'll know where to go to get the money. So here's something that's critical. This is worth doing. A lot of people don't think that they're ever going to have a large enough estate to really warrant having a living trust. And that's just not the case for most people. If you live in middle America today, or even, even if it's upper or lower middle America or higher, you're definitely going to want to have a trust. Even if you're in lower America, a trust can still be a good thing, because what happens is if you own a home, the value of that home is going to increase. If you own a life insurance policy, that's going to increase. Now, a life insurance policy comes to you income tax free, but it doesn't always avoid estate taxes. It doesn't always avoid probate. It doesn't always avoid some of these other issues. And a living trust can help you avoid probate. And then beyond that, it can help you avoid a lot of things And really, one of the cool things I think you should really look into in terms of a living trust is making provisions in the living trust so that when you pass away, your family, let's say for example that you're young or younger and your kids are young, you might put a provision in the trust that says your kids can't get a certain amount of money until they're 16 or till they're 18 or till they're 25 or whatnot. So you can actually make rules in your trust so the executor on the state knows, okay, this amount of money is going to these kids at this time, this amount of money is going to this charity, whatever it is. So those are the different rules that need to be put in place while you're still alive, while everything is still good, so that it can be executed in the proper timing. Again, I shared with you earlier, life insurance policies are a critical part of estate plan. So one of the things that a lot of people don't realize is that as you get a large amount of wealth, as you accumulate a large amount of wealth, that wealth could be taxed at a significantly high rate. So my question to you is, let's say that you create a large portfolio and you have a couple $1 million. Significant portion of that is going to go to Uncle Sam if you don't have some of these things in place. So my question to you is, what if there was a way that you could have the money that it needs to go to Uncle Sam be taken care of so that all the money that you've accumulated can go to your loved ones? Well, that's what life insurance can do. For example, let's say you owe a $500,000 in estate taxes or inheritance taxes to your kids, whatever. That life insurance can come in and fill that gap. It can fill that gap so that all the money you've accumulated can go to your family, to your loved ones, to the people that you care about the most, the people that you want to have the money. I mean, I don't know how you feel about the government, but man, they take a lot more than they need, and I don't want them taking more than they have to. And if I can set up a way where my family can be funded after I pass away, where they don't have to worry about taxes. They don't have to worry about any of those issues at the end of life. End of my life, my kids will be taken care of. The money can come in, even if they're grown, even if they have families of their own. It's still a nice way for you to continue your family tree, having some wealth and having some financial stability and strength. So life insurance is critical. Even if you're not young, even if you're older and you need the life insurance for estate planning is one of the critical things to have a life insurance policy for. And that end of life, estate taxes, inheritance taxes, all that stuff, life insurance can be a fantastic tool to help come in and fill the gap and make sure that your family gets what they need. So now let's talk about organizing your records. So it's critically important to keep your records organized. I have a story for you about, I had a family member that had I think his dad or mom passed away, and there was a debt that they didn't know about that came on to them, and they had to pay for it. And they were like $20,000 or something in this burden because their family didn't have the records properly and they weren't able to pay it off. Anyways, it was a huge issue where keeping things organized. So I highly recommend that if you do get a trust, that you keep that trust in a place that you'll remember it. Keep it in a safe in case you have fire damage, water damage, or any other kind of damage. Make sure that you keep it in a safe place. And this is something that's typically done with or in conjunction with a lawyer and a CPA, and even part of that could be your financial coach and or your life insurance agent. I hope you got a lot out of this video. This was a lot to consider. Estate planning or end-of-life planning is not something that's super fun. We don't want to talk about, think about, or even discuss much very often our death and demise, but it's something that we're all going to have to go through, and we better get it done before it happens so that everything's set up and ready to go so that our family can be safe and protected and have the best possible scenario ever. I've had several grandparents pass away. I've watched this happen several times, and it's always better when things are done ahead of time, when things are done smoothly, when you have life insurance that can pay for the burial costs, when you have life insurance that can pay for the things that are invariably going to come up with the debts and other things that are going to come up. It's just better. I've actually seen scenarios where people end up fighting so hard that they go to court and they end up in long legal battles that are significantly expensive and have significant costs. So please avoid all of those things if possible by getting yourself a good team. Get a lawyer, an estate planning lawyer, a CPA, a life insurance agent, a financial coach. Get these guys together and let's plan for your future. If you want to know more about how to do that, or if I can help in any way, please hit me up at hello@financialselfreliance.net. Otherwise, if you missed the last video I produced, you can find it here. Go ahead and subscribe to the channel up here and check out this video up here that YouTube thinks you might like. Until the next one, have a fantastic day.